Good evening, friends. That was a little hiccup. I hope that this works now. And let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. And there we go. I started a little while ago, a few days ago, with the story of Phool Walon Ki Sair. And today I'm going to talk about, I was planning to talk about newspapers in general of the 1840s and 50s, but I realized that there is just so much to say that I'm going to concentrate mostly on one newspaper, the Delhi Urdu Akhbar, and I'm going to talk about um, some of the interesting things that you can read in the pages of that from the 1840s and 50s issues. And just to give a little bit of background on what what these newspapers were like, what were they, what was the background. Now, often it has been said that the newspapers like the Delhi Urdu Akhbar really were inspired by English newspapers like the Delhi Gazette, which was started publishing in 1833. And the Delhi Urdu Akhbar, which comes in 1837, is inspired by that. But actually, there was a tradition in India of these newsletters, akhbarat as they were called, and these often we find in Farsi, in the Persian language, and the idea of newsletters, they were mostly written by news writers who were stationed at the courts of important rulers. So for instance, the Maharaja of Jaipur or the Maharaja of Gwalior or anywhere else, even smaller zamindars closer to Delhi, etc., would maintain these news writers at Delhi. And the news writer would collect news from the Mughal Darbar. He would collect news from in 1803, when Delhi came under company rule, the East India Company's rule, then at the resident, who was the highest official there, and they would collect all this news and would send it back to these places, whether it's Jaipur or Bikaner or Alwar or wherever. So all this news is coming back, and these news writers who used to write up these newsletters, and actually many of these newsletters have actually survived, and therefore they are a great source of information for us. And these the early printed newspapers that we find, like the Delhi Urdu Akhbar, which started in 1836 or 37, are really draw quite a lot from these particular akhbars. And I'll talk about that in a little while, but it would just to give a little context of the scale on which these newspapers were published. So Delhi Urdu Akhbar, it's let me talk about the price first. It used to come out once a week. It was a weekly newspaper, and once a week it used to come out. For 1 month's issues, the cost was 2 rupees. If you subscribed for 6 months at a time, you would pay 11 rupees. And if you subscribed for a year, you would pay 20 rupees. Now, in those days, this was a really expensive proposition. It was 2 rupees for a month's newspapers, which would be about 4 or maximum 5, is quite a bit. But yeah, it was an expensive process. Even though it was much easier than manuscript, but even the early lithographic presses were what these were published on, so printed on. So it was an expensive process. It was not cheap. And therefore, because they were expensive, the circulation was quite limited. The Delhi Urdu Akhbar, we have statistics of the circulation. It never went beyond 80 copies, 80 copies of a certain issue. Now, what does that tell us? Does it mean only 80 people or 80 families read this newspaper? It had such a small reach. That is actually not quite true, because not only were newspapers read by a family, they were often circulated. You gave it to your neighbor after you had finished with it. There was another very interesting thing. There were some people who used to gather, make a sort of a digest of the news from various newspapers, and would stand in prominent places and read them out, read these digests of the news from different newspapers. So it had a much larger reach than this 80 number of 80 would suggest. So this is about the circulation, etc. What about the content? Now, as far as the Persian akhbar were concerned, the old newsletters, they used to be gathering information from the courts. And to some extent, you see that reflected in the printed newspapers also. Delhi Urdu Akhbar, as the name suggests, is in Urdu. So it was Delhi. So they used to talk about, for instance, the news of the Mughal court. So the issues that have really survived for us are in 1840-41 issues are there, 18 I think 52-53 issues are there, then 1857 some issues are there. So it's we don't have a lot of issues of these newspapers that have survived, but those that have survived show us what the content was. And say the Mughal Darbar, at that time it was Bahadur Shah Zafar's reign. It talks about it talks in somewhat detail about the Mughal emperor's comings and goings. So and so came to meet him. He had a talk in private with so and so. He gave some honors to so and so. So his daily activities, the public activities, were reported on. The politics of the Mughal court were really commented on quite a bit. Who are the people who are his primary officials, who is being appointed, who is being dismissed, what are the princes saying, what is the which prince is in favor and which prince is not in favor, and all that. Now you must realize that why these things were important from the time when the Mughal Empire was a big force. What is going on at the Mughal court was of great political significance for not only the Mughals themselves, but for all the Jagirdars and others who were around them. They wanted to know what's going on in the Mughal court just to know how to make these decisions. Even business people needed to know what's going on, who's going up and who's going down, so to speak, in favor. So all these bits of information, even now, it was significant enough to have some interest. So that was reported. What sorts of festivals are taking place in the court? These were social, I think, matters of social interest. I talked about the Phulwalon ki Sair, how the Phulwalon ki Sair is being celebrated, how Eid is being celebrated, how Diwali is being celebrated, or the Dashera Darbar happened. So all those things used to be mentioned. The Meena Bazaar is taking place. The newspaper of November 1840 talks about the wedding of Bahadur Shah with Zeenat Mahal. So these are the kind of things, the fact that the Mughal emperor is going on hunting trips to Chhatarpur, Haveli Palam was a pargana. So Palam, he's going to Palam for a hunting trip. These were all things that were mentioned. There were also comments on, and these were not just objective or just a narration of events. There was opinions which were expressed on these also. So individual, whether the affairs of the court are going well or going badly was commented on. So often there was a lot of comment on, say, the incompetence or corruption of the royal officials, that the finances are being mismanaged and this is happening and that is happening. So there was a lot of comment on that in the newspaper as well. It was not just on the other hand, as far as personally towards the emperor is concerned, it was extremely respectful. So often all this used to be reported with a small little kind of proviso that, but we know that His Majesty is not aware of all these things that are happening, because if he was aware, he would never allow them to happen. So that was also something that was mentioned. President's activities, much more boring. He met so and so, he met so and so, he went out on tour, he came back from tour. So it's not terribly exciting. The things that the Delhi Urdu Akhbar had, which the old style Akhbarat didn't have, were things like weather reports. The weather reports are very interesting because obviously weather reports are become interesting. The kind of things that were reported, these were not forecasts, of course, because they were not really, there was not in a position to forecast. It was a once a week newspaper. But it used to talk about, this year there's been too much rain, or now there's rain, and now and of course Delhi's weather has been unpredictable. I think even 200 years ago it was. So this year too much rain, this year less, and now there's unseasonal heat, or it's still too cold, or whatever. So all that used to keep happening. So that weather reports were important. One other interesting thing in these akhbarat was letters to the editor, and these were often quite long. So letters to the editor used to be included, and on all sorts of subjects. Can't go into too many details in this, but the other interesting thing was advertisements, and we find interesting advertisements. I think the most numerous were books which were published in the same press, because the newspaper was to be published in a particular press. So books that were being published in the press, books that were being issued by the Delhi College, auctions and sales, houses on rent, and a lot of government advertising, government circulars, orders, gazette notifications, similar to today. An interesting advertisement I came across, I think in the 1841 paper, of a dance performance that's going to be held. And this is going to be held near the Kashmiri Gate, next to the resident's house. There's a dance hall, and the dance performance is going to be held there, and there are going to be two classes of tickets. The upper class is going to be 3 rupees, and the lower class is going to be 1 rupee. So asking for that. Another interesting advertisement I came across was, there's this, it's been put out by one certain person who had been in a litigation. He had fought this court case, and this was a case of a landlord-tenant case. So he's fought this landlord-tenant case, and he has won. But the judge has said that he will not be allowed costs, meaning that his legal expenses will not be paid by the person who's lost that case. So this guy thinks that actually he should have been awarded costs. He should have been given those costs. So he puts in an advertisement asking that if any of the readers of the newspaper know of any section or clause or any law or rule, they should please get back to him, telling him which is this provision in law under which he can he can say that, no, I should be given awarded costs as well. So that I thought was a really interesting kind of advertisement. Another advertisement that I found very interesting was about one doctor who's removing kidney stones. So he is removing kidney stones, and he says that he removes them very successfully, and the scar is also minimal. And then, of course, he gives his own address, but he gives the names, ages, and addresses of his patients as well. And now you may think that that's terribly unethical, but the whole idea of the advertisement is that readers can actually go and verify from these patients who have been successfully treated to kind of endorse this treatment. So interesting, interesting point of the advertisement. Doctors were subject to the subject of other general news reporting also. One of the points that was in one article, the editor was saying that people are still suspicious of doctors, and he put it very interestingly. He said कि लोग ऐसा डरते हैं डॉक्टर से जैसे कि गाय और बकरी कसाई से, that cows and goats are scared of the butcher. They are so scared. So he's, of course, very unhappy about that, and says that people should overcome their prejudice and go and see these Western style doctors, because their diagnosis and medicine and all is quite good, and should move beyond the Indian systems of medicine also. So that is one thing. The other issue that came up was smallpox inoculation. So he says there's a smallpox inoculation people are not really going for it as they should be. And it is a much better way of, and who knows when people, कि कब लोगों में अकल आएगी और ये पूजे और टोटकों से दूर होके इस दवा को अपनाएंगे. So that's what he says, that when are people going to stop all these superstitious cures which are which claim to cure the smallpox. So he talks about, the newspaper talks about that too. Um, Another great similarity with news reports today, a lot of discussion of the police. And of course, some of the very predictable ones. Police is not doing its job well, crime has gone up, crime is, and police officials are not very, not honest, and they are not doing their job well and all that. On the other hand, when the police did solve crimes successfully, they were praised for it also. So there was quite a lot of praise. There was a particular Kotwal in 1841 who was praised a lot for his crime solving ability, etc. And a lot of praise was heaped on him on how well he was doing. There was another thing that had been instituted in 1841. The magistrate apparently was also very popular, according to the newspaper. So a lot of praise for the magistrate also. And he had apparently instituted this system. He said that in every thana, there were 12 thanas in the city, and in every thana jurisdiction, one person, sort of a committee, or one person would be appointed from among the citizens, who would carry all the grievances of the people against the police department, and those would be examined by the magistrate himself. So the newspaper was very much in favor of this and said this is a great thing that the magistrate has done, that we can now bring our grievances against the police to the magistrate himself. That will help to improve matters. The police, the Delhi Urdu Akhbar, actually, interestingly, in as far as crime control and all is concerned, was very much in pro-police in one other case, which is a very high-profile case. 1841, Mirza Ghalib, in his house, some people were caught gambling. Now, Mirza Ghalib, just sitting in his house, I mean, they would gamble. And this was a time of crackdown on gambling, even in people's own houses, and therefore this happened. And Ghalib was arrested. This is a very, very well-known story. But the newspaper's view was that this was very good that this had been done, because it showed that the local Thanedar was above all. He did not discriminate on the basis of people's class, and even somebody who was so well known and so well respected and was from the upper classes and so well connected, he could not escape justice. So that is what the Delhi Urdu Akhbar's view on this particular incident was. Police was also usually praised for making good arrangements of law and order during important events, and many of those important events were festivals and religious observances. And they said that one of those, always very tricky points used to be Muharram. They said Muharram mein jhagda fasad hota hai. So this, to prevent that, the police had to step in, and they used to make these arrangements to make sure that everything went off went off well and peacefully. So that always used to be commented on, that has the police made proper arrangements or not. One very interesting occasion, that Muharram happened to fall at a time around March, actually, mid-March. And this was also the time of Holi. So the Akhbar said that, oh my goodness, it's going to be tricky, and the police better be alert, because not only is it Muharram, but it is also Holi. And I'll quote here what he says is, कि बसबब मौसम बहार कि हर एक इंसान, क्या हिंदू क्या मुसलमान, हर एक का खून जोश में होता है. So what they say is that because Holi is during the spring season, and every person, whether Hindu or Muslim or who, their blood is sort of heated, inflamed. So there is likelihood of a lot of actually what they were actually saying was, and we get this from other sources, during Holi, people used to tend to be quite intoxicated also often. So that was probably the issue that was being referred to over here. So I've made a few notes just so that I don't forget to miss out any points. The magistrate who made all these had to do all sorts of other things also. The police, one was he actually in 1840 stopped a sati from happening. There was in Bhavana. Bhavana is in northwest Delhi, and in Bhavana there was an old zamindar, one Sadasukh, and he died. He was 100 years old, and he died. And his wife was 55, and she decided to commit sati or become a sati, and then. This magistrate, I'm sure a report must have gone back to him, and he had it stopped. So there was, while there was this positive comment on the police and administration from time to time, there was a lot of criticism also from time to time. There were on the general government. I mean, not these administrative issues, but what was the opinion of the Pehli Urdu Akhbar over the government? What was their view on British rule? By and large, the newspaper at this stage, before the revolt of 1857, was actually quite fairly pro-British. It believed that, so often you have these comments in the newspaper that the British are good rulers, they are trying their best, and we should support them and we should work with them. But at the same time, it was critical of specific policies. So, for instance, the idea that Indians were given low paid jobs or were generally given low salaries in government office. This was a major comment by the Delhi Urdu Akhbar. I remember many of its readers would have been the educated elite, and these were the people who were suffering most because they did not get high positions, and it was only Europeans who got the superior positions in the administration. Rise in taxes. This is always something that is of concern to people. So the rise in the Chaukidari tax was bitterly condemned in the newspaper. Another point that issue that really affects us all, the rise in prices. So that for some reason the prices are going up, and because of shortage or people are hoarding, and prices are going up, and the government is failing to fix prices. So they wanted the government to fix prices, which the government didn't often do. So that was a major complaint. Social reform as a subject of discussion was also coming into the newspapers. So there was one two or three issues of the Akhbar in, I think, the 50s, when there was this issue of widow remarriage. So, some Pandit was quoted at length saying that widow remarriage is actually a good thing. And then in the following newspaper, there was a letter to the editor saying that we don't know who your Pandit is, but he should at least quote some. He should quote some actual evidence from the scriptures, saying where is it said that it's okay. And moreover, it's not only that, but things like this should not be talked about in the newspaper, because these are issues which are a matter of faith, and therefore should not be the subject of discussion in a newspaper. So that was one thing. The other point that was being discussed, issue that was being discussed, was education, and more specifically the medium of education. What should be the medium of education? And there the newspaper came out quite strongly in favor of education in the so-called vernacular language, which was Urdu, not in favor of English language education. It used to be quite in favor of modern education and even Western sciences, etc., but not education in English. So that was also quite a lot of column space was devoted to that issue also. Before I wind up here, just one little last anecdote. There were also what you would call today, of course, this kind of news appears in the society pages, but there were events happening in the city which were of interest particularly among the well-off and society people, shall we say. So there was a wedding in the family of a jeweler, and this wedding was quite over the top, and everybody was talk. It was the talk of the town, I'm sure, because a lot of people turned up just to see the decorations and the how elaborately everything had been done up. And they said that the decorations were particularly remarked on, because they said that there is a monument in Mehrauli called the Jharna, and it's basically an enclosed garden which has a lot of pavilions and a waterfall, etc. And though that had been recreated in the structures had been recreated in wood, and they must have had some water falling also, so the Jharna had been recreated. The Governor General of India, when he used to go out in a procession, used to have certain buglers and carriages and elephants and horses and whatever that had been recreated also. So the description of this wedding and its elaborate decoration was also something that was mentioned in the newspaper. So that was really a few snippets from which might have given you a flavor of the Delhi Urdu Akhbar in the 1840s and 50s. I did not go into the last section, which was 1857, because that's the era of the revolt, and the whole tone and character of the Akhbar changed a little bit. And really, that requires a very different kind of discussion. But I hope you've got some idea of what newspapers used to be like in the 1840s and 50s. Not that different from some of the things that we are concerned about these days. But I would, if you all have any specific questions, I'll be happy to take those. And I'm going to have a look now. Great. Himanshu is asking what was the rough percentage difference between news versus opinion at that time. I think every bit of news that used to be given used to have just one line of, you got an idea of what the editor is thinking about this particular piece of news. So I would say, instead of putting it in percentage terms, I would say that every news that was given, there was a little bit of this opinion. What were the Ramin is asking, what were the opinions tone used for the British? Pretty very, very objective. The idea was that these are our rulers and they are more or less fine, and it's just we have to criticize them constructively. Okay. Thank you all for all your kind comments. Yes, Kalpana, we are still looking at superstitions dealing with the current virus. It's amazing that even in almost 200 years, we've not changed that much. Uh, yeah, Rajat is asking, were the beat reporters, editors credited over the anonymous? Unfortunately, they were mostly anonymous. So we don't know. The editor was usually mentioned, and the printer and publisher. In fact, from 1853 onwards, the manager, he was known as the Muhtamim, was Muhammad Bakar, a very noted person who, during the revolt, was the editor of the newspaper as well, and the printer and publisher was his son Muhammad Hussain. So yes, the printer and publisher manager were mentioned. They often, the newspaper seems to have changed management and hands quite a lot, or at least the people who appeared as the management used to keep changing. So that's a very complicated issue in the case of this particular newspaper. But yeah, correspondence were not mentioned. Communal nature, riots between communities. As I said, mostly the Muharram was a flashpoint. But there were, the newspaper doesn't mention them, but there were certain tensions which used to emerge from time to time on cow sacrifice and all that. And that mostly used to be worked out in the courts rather than in, there was a lot of, it never broke into violence. There used to be litigation about it, etc. Overall look and feel, Simin. When I put up the announcement of this post, I had pasted a little section from the sort of masthead of the newspaper. That's what it looks like. Very, very basic, very basic. At this stage, they didn't have too many illustrations at all. One of the exceptions to that is the scientific newspapers, which used to be published by the by the Delhi College, or by when Ramchandar started publishing his newspapers, things like Kirano Sadain, Muhibbe Hind, etc. They have a lot of illustrations, but those are mostly kind of for scientific and other purposes. So you'll have, if you're talking about the kangaroo, for instance, so you want to illustrate a kangaroo to show people what a kangaroo really looks like, or a microscope, what does a microscope look like, etc. So they carried a lot of illustrations. The Delhi Urdu Akhbar didn't. Yes, Anuradha, a lot of the same issues. 3 rupee ticket, yep, very expensive. These were, I think, mostly for the British who were going to go to these performances, maybe some of the Indian elite. Um, nature. Oh, yeah. 1857, Rajat brings about a huge change in the Delhi Urdu Akhbar also. As I said, this is beyond the scope of this, but Muhammad Baqir, who was the editor, uh, goes into a very pro Delhi, very anti-British mode. So the tone of the newspaper changes completely in 1857. Of course, Muhammad Baqir was then executed after the end of the revolt. He was tried and he was executed, and of course, the newspaper completely disappeared. So yeah, that happens. Anand Maheshwari ji, you can see this video again. It will be saved. Yeah, Rakesh Ranjan. Yes, yes. It is the East India Company which is ruling, but it is still British rule because they are very much a British company, and the Governor General. I mean, of course, there is none of that other this thing, but that the Governor General, etc., all are reporting ultimately to authorities in Britain. So I would say that it is still, to a larger extent, it's not the situation which had been there earlier in terms of. So, for instance, when you see a lot of the 18th century in this area, where you have individuals who are either working as freelance soldiers or rising even to fairly high positions in North India, they are not really in an organized structure. They are individuals. They are not representing these big organizations which are British. So, yeah, I mean, strictly speaking, it's not under the crown, but I would say that it is still okay to call it British rule. That's what my opinion is. Um, Varsha, I have not come across ads for products. How many pages in the newspaper? I'll have to look that up. I'll reply to your comment after I'm done. I'll just have a look at this thing. Matrimonial ads, no. No matrimonial ads. Coverage to common people's lives. Um, Not very much. It's just, crimes. Crimes were one case in which you see these, because when crime is reported, often the victim or the perpetrator also are people who are very everyday people, and they suddenly come into the pages of the newspaper, pretty much as it happens today, I guess. So to that extent, they came up. How did the Indians change their opinion of British rule? Well, there was not one opinion. There were many, many opinions. I have just spoken of the opinion that the Delhi Urdu Akhbar uh, exhibited, Saloni. So, I mean, that's just one newspaper. So there were many, many opinions. There are, as it is today, people have different opinions about different things. So, uh, how much of that, how it found an outlet in 1857, etc., these are very interesting issues, and I hope, I mean, I'm writing a book just now which will deal with some of these things, but it's a complex thing. How many printing presses in town? Mohan Sharma is asking. Lots, and they grew suddenly. There was an explosion in the 1830s. There were many, many printing presses which suddenly came up. So I'd say 16, 17 at a time, which is quite a lot. I mean, Delhi's population was not that big, right? Inside the city, by the mid 1850s, there were 150,000 people, 1.5 lakhs within the city walls, and maybe 50,000 outside the city walls. So not a huge population. For that, 16 presses was quite good. Thank you, Rehan, for joining. I'm glad you could. Simon, hi. Hope you all are well too. Uh, English translations, unfortunately, no, they haven't been systematically done. Sections have been quoted and translated in some um, articles and things, but no, it would be lovely to do it. Actually, somebody should do it. What role of as reporter of the public? Uh, no, the editorials. Uh, Ramakrishna Prasad's role of newspapers is reporters of public mood. I would say that yes. I mean, or rather, they purported to be. They said people are think this, people think that. But as newspapers today, I think a lot of it was what the newspaper manager and editor thought themselves, which they were also projecting as what people think and what people are saying. But editorials were not run in the centerfold. It was, in fact, editorial comment was kind of mixed up uh, with the general format of the newspaper. Corrupt officials named in the reports. Yeah, yeah. That often they were mentioned by position, the thanadar of such and such thana and all that, but it was very clear who these people they were talking about. Did they promote Urdu poetry? The Delhi Urdu Akhbar now and then posted some poetry. For instance, it reported on a particular mushaira that had taken place and quoted some poetry of Bahadur Shah Zafar and Zauq. There were other newspapers which actually printed poetry on a regular basis. The Kirano Sadain, for instance, which was the newspaper which came out of the Delhi College, they actually printed quite a lot of poetry, which was amazing because their whole aim was to really promote useful knowledge and science, etc. But they actually printed a lot of poetry too. Size of the newspaper. Size of the newspaper. I mean, I'm technically I would I'm very bad at this kind of thing, but I'd say like smaller than today's newspapers. If you fold our newspapers in half today, the big newspapers, if you fold them in half, smaller than that. Uh, Nikhil, had any specific columns expressive of the litigations of the like monkey? Oh, well, Darbar proceedings used to be talked about. What is happening? Who did the emperor talk to? What did very very brief. Nothing of that sort. It was not a mouthpiece of any particular government authority or even the emperor or anything. How many newspapers were there? There were a lot of newspapers. There were a few. I mean, there was the Sadiq ul Akhbar. There used to be a newspaper which used to come out from the fort also, the palace. It was the official sort of newspaper of the palace that used to come out. There was an English newspaper also, the Delhi Gazette. So there were four, five. A lot of the Calcutta newspapers also used to carry news of North India and of Delhi and specifically of the Darbar of the Mughal Emperor. That's really surprising to us today. But even in the 30s, people in Calcutta and etc. were reading these, and many of them were in Farsi, the Jame Jamshed, the Aina Sikandar, and these were newspapers which were talking about the daily activities of the Mughal Darbar. People still wanted to know that the Mughal Emperor met so and did that and went to this Phulwalo ki Sair and went to the Eidgah during Eid or whatever. So they used to talk about all these. They were not translated into English, unfortunately. We come across a little bit of small extracts which you find in some of the English newspapers that the local newspapers are saying this, etc. So not much of it comes up, at least as far as I know. The Urdu, these newspapers have not been said. Uh, Anuradha, yeah, the East India Company. Yes, certainly. I mean, the rich and famous and influential in Britain had a huge stake in the East India Company. So yes, East India Company was, as I said, very very British in that sense. Did they employ reporters? No, they did not, could not afford to really employ reporters. The person who was the main guy writing, the editor, used to go out and gather information. He had correspondents. Correspondents were literally people who he corresponded with and who would give him information. And so, as far as I can make out, they didn't employ reporters. Uh, Rajan Raj wasting question about 1857, and that's what the British tried to do really in the later trials. If you look at the trial of Bahadur Shah Zafar and all, they wanted to see signs of simmering discontent in Delhi through the newspapers, and I don't think they did a very great job. The you know the problem was that 1857, the British decided that 1850, even before the trial and all, the British had got this into their heads that this was a Muslim conspiracy against the British rule, against British rulers, and against the British. So they were not willing to look beyond that. So they were again trying to look at, oh, there are these jihadi elements, and there are these trying to make those connections that there was some conspiracy happening. And if you look at those elements in the newspaper, the kind of things that they try to draw out are quite off the mark. I mean, if anybody has to look at for evidence in the newspapers, they should look at the grievances that Indian people had. The fact that Indians get low paid jobs, they don't get good salaries, that they taxes are very high, people have lost jagirdaris, etc. These are important things. This is what they should have picked up, but they didn't, because they had decided to characterize the revolt in a very different manner. Varsha, was there a difference between the news in English and Urdu newspapers? The Delhi Gazette actually talked very little um about Delhi's news, what's going on in the city, what is going on in North India. A lot of their aim was to give information of things that are taking place in the British community, not just in the city, but all across India and even Britain. So a lot of, for instance, they would have these births and deaths columns, the weddings that are happening, so they were talking about the life of the British in India. They wanted this to means to report for the people what is going on to other Brits. So there was that disconnect. The British in Delhi during the company period were increasingly less and less connected to the life of the city. So they were not a little bit, maybe as a bit of gossip of what is happening in the court or whatever, but not very much about the social life of the city, etc. The kind of things that were of interest to the Indian readers. How were the newspapers funded, private ones? The private newspapers just, I suppose, just subscriptions. And as I said, the presses used to publish books as well. So, and the high price of subscription suggests that they were being funded out of subscriptions alone, because they were certainly not, it was not advertisement in all in any significant manner that was paying for this. Though I'm sure the ishtihar that they brought out, the doctor who advertised his kidney stone removal treatment must have paid them something, because otherwise, I mean, I guess. Great. So I think I have come to an end to see. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been 45 minutes almost. So thank you for joining me, and you can. This will be saved. It will be available for viewing later as well. So people can continue to. Those who've missed the beginning can look at it again, and. If you have any more comments, you can also post them, and I'll try and answer them. Thank you very much. And I hope that we will keep this on. Thank you. Bye bye.